Okay, folks, good morning. I'll go back to finish this little guy today. Now, I don't know if we can get him finished. Sometimes this stuff just takes a while to do. Let me get to my instructions here. Instructions that we had to take a photograph of before we get asbestos poisoning. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's that, but it's not pleasant. All right, we need the back door here. And I was going to take a look at this back plate on the Sherman, but I think I'm going to wait until this evening. Just see how long it's let it cure properly. Wherever the hell it is. Yeah. No, it's sitting there hardening up, hopefully. We'll let it sit a little longer. It's not like I'm going to have time to put the Sherman back together, but we want to get that resolved before we go and put this piece in the last Sherman because I'm missing one. I think the box had been tampered with. I did get it used. I guess they give you the option to put making this door open. Which would be alright if I had this thing in a static position, but you could make it open completely. It's not like they can't fire this thing. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. It doesn't even fit. Let's take care of this. Although these are sink marks. What's that sound? See if we can't remove this or smooth this out without having to come in here with filler. That I'm not very good at. Yeah, there we go. I don't think this is going to do the job. I think I'm going to have to use. I think I'm going to have to use some magic. Well, let's check out a couple things. Let's see if the California goo. That'd be a good name to call this stuff if this ends up working. Okay, well this smells so much better than the other one. And this is the. Oh yeah. Okay, so this took a long time to melt. This is the we made some sprue goo, and this is the one made by Microscale. I forget what their stuff is, but their glue smells like oranges. Not the Tester's one that was just. It smells heinous. It smells extremely of acetone. The other one, but this one this took a long time to break down. But if if I think this is going to work like it's going to, you don't have to lay this stuff thick on at all. This will last a long time. Yeah, that doesn't smell unpleasant at all. Actually, it actually smells better now that it's got some of the the glue in it, the softening agent, whatever the hell it's called. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll let that do its thing because this one is the Tester's one. And it's just heavy of acetone. It actually smells better today than it did yesterday. But that's good because I'm not really using the Microscale one. I forget what the hell it's called. Micro Weld is what it is. But it smells pretty. I mean, I'm sure it's toxic, but it's less toxic than the other one. And then we'll use the Tamiya glue for everything else. So, to be continued. Is I haven't been happy with the gap filling stuff at all. I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at that. I can't be good at everything. Gee whiz. So we're not going to put that on there. It's good on there yet until that's corrected, because that's going to be really difficult to fill that kind of stuff beforehand. But if I use that, then in the future, that'll be something that'll be pretty cool. We got lots of sprues, lots and lots of sprue stuff. Okay, so we've got the doors are going to go there. Here, there's some kind of a clamp. Piece 22, they claim. Let's see what piece 22 looks like. I guess nobody's going to get any crowns today. I know that's so important for everyone. It was looking kind of questionable to me whether or not I was going to be able to successfully put these tracks on yesterday. It started to. I wasn't expecting to have so much trouble with a stapler. That's the thing that kind of surprised me. Okay, we got that on there. And then we've got these little corner pieces that go back here. I don't know if they'll fit in here with a track. We'll find out. Piece 37. Let's just take one of them off. And well, if I can fit it on the outside, that's okay. But if I have to fit it on the inside, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at a real vehicle here. Okay, according to this Hasagawa picture, it goes on the outside. Okay, that's cool. And that fits on there, no problem. No worries. Let's see, I can't see who that is. That's probably Justin. Yep. 40 degrees in northern Michigan. You bastard. That is wonderful weather. Especially if it was in the daytime, 40 degrees, but that's asking a bit much. Are the people up there that complain about how cold it is? I wouldn't. I love to wear long sleeves. I really do. So, I just don't want to rake or shovel anything. Or pick up dog poop. I don't want to do that either. I shouldn't have to do that. I don't have any dogs. And no, I'm not a cat person. Why's everybody gotta have pets, man? I don't need to be amused. This is my pet right here. My pet toys. Be like somebody having to change a diaper and they don't have any kids. Like, why, man? I don't mind the tweezer work though. Yesterday it was 65. Went swimming. Hell no. 40's warm in Michigan. What about a fish tank? Had one growing up. We decided to get some snails, to clean the algae. Got, I don't know, 4 or 5 snails. One of them was pregnant, at least one of them. They took over the fish tank. It was like, it was like apocalyptic snail attack everywhere. I'm not an animal. I don't want to say I'm not an animal rights person. That sounds like I want them to be abused, which is not true. But I don't really worried about animals' well-being. Not really growing up with any, but having something like a turtle or something like that lives a really long time stuck in a box is kind of cruel. But I don't have a lot of sympathy for fish. I don't know. It's almost like they're like bugs in a way. Where the hell does this piece go? Oh, well, son of a bitch. We didn't glue this down, did we? Yeah, we did. Okay, I think we're still okay. Son of a bitch. That's where piece 11 and 12 is. I was looking at it the whole time like this on the sprue, right? And I just didn't even bother looking at the pieces. And if you flip to the other side, there's a seat attached to this plate. Let's see, let me get it on the screen. There's the seat. There's the missing two seats. There was lots of people at the beach. I bet they're all Yankees. I can't do that, man. I really do love cold weather, but don't count on me to. Oh, I didn't give you guys a Springs report. I went to the Springs. I went to this Springs here. That's kind of it's the most famous one. It's the one that people know. Itchatuckney. I know they name everything after everybody they've shipped away. Doesn't make any sense, but okay. So we went to the spring kayaking, and they do tubing here. That's like a big deal, and I've never done it because it's just too damn cold. And I actually got in the water. I didn't get into my chest, okay, to be honest with you. I went kayaking, so I was like, this kayak I'd never been in before. We rented them, and they have holes in them. So literally, you're sitting in this pool of spring water the whole time you're kayaking, which is fine, but it's like, if you really needed to go, I guess you could pee yourself and nobody would know the difference. But regardless, I was in the water basically the whole time, and it wasn't that cold. Now, it was pretty damn hot, so that probably helped. But it wasn't 65 degrees. I think it's 72 year round is what they say. But man, they had a whole bunch of rules. Like you couldn't bring this, you couldn't bring the other thing, you couldn't bring any drinks, you couldn't bring any. I didn't need alcohol. Like I'm gonna be, rowing. I don't need to be. Let's see. Can I get this piece in there or not? Son of a bitch. That's where I found it. Well, I'll be able to get it in there, even if it is a tight fit. Oh, I would have had to put that in before the two halves. We'll still be able to get that in there, but wow, that's. And I still stand by the thing that I say. If I encounter an issue, there's people that have been. What the fuck is that? Great, I snapped the wheel. That's all right. This is Tony's Fix-It Palace. Well, I knew we'd get it in there. Never claimed I was the best modeler. I'm a figure painter. Okay. Well, that solved the seat dilemma. We'll do the same thing with this thing. I'm not even gonna try to fit it in there. We'll just remove half this distance here of the. But anyways, we went to the springs. The only thing I didn't like about it was, man, you got to get there early, or you end up waiting in a long line to get in, which just you're sitting in the car idling for a while. Like, not like we missed our appointment or anything, but it was like, is it state land? Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is state land. It's a state park. But like, you couldn't even like bring like. Here's the thing. You couldn't bring any plastic water bottles, but you could bring ones that weren't plastic. So I guess they figured if people didn't have this mentality that what they had was disposable, they wouldn't let it fall in the water. I'm like, yeah, what a plastic water bottle will stay at the surface, a metal one will go to the bottom. So it's cold in Florida when you turn on the heat there. I don't turn on the heat. Now, I will say one thing. It's colder here than other places at the same temperature. And what I mean by that is when we went to Colorado, it was 18 degrees there. It gets 18 degrees, not very many days, maybe 2 or 3 days a year here. And it's cold on those days here. And 18 degrees there wasn't cold. And I literally was like drinking an iced coffee in 18-degree weather up there because it's so freaking dry. So the cold doesn't penetrate you. The coldest I've ever been, that I remember ever being, it was probably got down to the 30s. Maybe it was only even the 40s. But we had sat in a movie theater for 2 hours watching a movie, and I had drank a lot of soda with ice in it. So when I came outside, I was cold on the inside. So if I stay warm on the inside, I don't care. But I literally in Colorado, we had to sleep with the windows open. It was 18, 17, 16 degrees, something like that. We had to have the windows open in the place we were staying at because the dryness was killing us. We needed air circulation. Air circulation. All right, well, we broke the wheel, but we found this piece, so it's a wash. All right, let's glue this fucking wheel on. And it's not a clean break. Which is good. It's got like a jagged thing in it, so we know which way it goes. Shit happens. Can't let these little things get you down. When we went to Europe, same thing. We had to sleep with the windows open in places. You get used to sleeping with a ceiling fan all the time. I mean, the ceiling fan's on I don't care what the temperature is outside. We always have air circulation. So the one of the other axles on the Halftracks that I inherited also has a broken axle. Not a big deal. I'm not going to mess with this back plate. I want it to be nice and I don't want it to be too flexible. So the cold in Florida, early November. The coldest month here is February. October. I mean, Halloween is a wash. Sometimes it is hot as shit. Sometimes it's like the very first cool day, coolish day. November is hit or miss. Christmas Day, we've had cold, not cold by your stretched imagination. We've had Christmas Day in the 30s. We've had Christmas Day in the 90s. Yeah. So, you only close the bedroom window when it gets below freezing. Last year in Michigan, we dropped to -7 degrees. Yeah. I just can't handle it. I can't handle the dryness. I'm used to it being moist. So, that is one thing we're used to. Went to Utah, when we went to Colorado, it was just too damn dry. I've said this before that in the wintertime I actually drink more than in the summertime. In the summertime you're hot, but it's moist. All right, what we're doing the fender, and we found the other thing. We're looking for A, and we found Q. Okay, and this can go into sprue hell. Okay. Okay, we can do all the seat backs now. Rarely dry here. Yeah, old Blighty. Old Blighty. Yeah, I was putzing around the UK the other day on Google Earth. I forget what I was looking up. And you guys have that big, we'll call it a state park. I know it's not. It's probably a national preserve or something like that. Between Manchester and Sheffield, there's like this, you know, this area of land that hasn't been populated. And I was looking at some of the pictures of it. And I'm sure just like that, there's, lots of other places. Like there's probably lots of that in Scotland, but Scotland is more rugged by a lot. So I kind of expected that. I wasn't expecting that in the middle of England to have this relatively large area that was uninhabited or reserved. And it's very, very pretty. I was like, that's not what you think about when you think of England. But, there's pretty things in everywhere, there's pretty places everywhere, except maybe New Jersey. New Jersey has that reputation for just being just a dump. Yeah, but I love that about Google Earth. People can take pictures, or my favorite one, of course, is the Google image view, so you can see what a car would look like if you drove through it. That's super handy. And I hope I get a chance to go to the UK, other than London. I mean, I could spend another 5 days in London, easy. But I'm not a big city person. I'm not like, hey, let's go to the U.S. All right, where are you going? New York. I'm like, that's not me. You know, too many people bad. I mean, I don't want to go someplace that's so rural I get tipped by a cow, but too many people makes it difficult to get around. And big cities attract strange cats. Just like, you have some little town and you got some lifer that's there that's, not well. And he's always lived in that town and, everybody knows who he is. And, same thing. You got a big city and you got some guy that mumbles to himself that walks across 43rd Street or, whatever it is that he does. So, let's cut around. For how long, though? I don't. Oh, you mean before it gets built up? I don't know. I don't think that they're going to build up that stuff. There's a lot of laws and stuff that have been. People are a lot more concerned about overgrowth and stuff now than they were in the 20th century, or even the 19th century. There's a lot of places that if you wanted to just develop everything, they wouldn't let you. But it's almost kind of like, well, this area is ruined anyway, so yeah, go ahead and put a 20th apartment building or whatever. But the people around here in this little town, they're like, man, we don't want this thing to grow or anything. Like, they'd be happy if the Confederates would have won. Like, you know, like, no, I don't want it to be an urban metropolis, but I don't want an outhouse either. Oh, this is kind of precarious how this is supposedly attached. I think we'll be all right. Let's put all these seat backs now. Now that we've found the missing seat back. Yeah, see, this broken axle's now almost as good as new. That's why the weld cement is my favorite cement to use, because you just attaching it to itself again. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to live somewhere there's nothing to do, and it's like a Sunday, and it's like everything's closed. But I don't want to live in a place that's a big city because it's just too many of the wrong people. Too many people with problems. Everybody's in your way. So judging by the number of seats, 6-man crew, that makes sense. 4 people for the mortar. Commander, gunner, and 2 loaders. I'm probably going to leave the fitty off. The fitty gets clipped up here. I'm probably going to leave it off until we finish it because that's difficult to get in and around, and it's quite delicate. So we don't want to bend our fitty. Your closest city is Sheffield, 8 miles away. It isn't overly large. Honestly, the part I like the most about one of the things I like the most about Europe, the part that I like the most. No, the part that I like the most is the history. Everything else is secondary to that. Um, is the walking around. We don't do enough of that here, and it shows. I mean, I was walking on a low walking day in Europe. I was walking 20,000 steps on a low walking day. And yeah, the first couple days, man, you're hurting, and then you just get used to it. Sink or swim, baby. But then when I also went, the weather was such that you wanted to be outside. I don't know if I want to do that in the summertime. Let's see how the fit on this is. I think the Brits use these as well. I don't know what the heck the M5 Halftrack is. I think it might just be an export version, but the same damn thing. Okay, that's going to go like that. You know, some parts of this model are really nice, and some parts are like not so nice. Like they just cut corners. Like the rivets on here are really nice, but then there's like panel lines that should be a panel line, but they're raised. Yeah, we're gonna have to. Harrogate may be a good choice for you. Close to Leeds and York, so much history around those parts. Harrogate. It is so difficult for us to take vacation time. Let's say it was free. It's just so difficult to just take vacation time. The Royal who? The Pump Room Museum, Harrogate. What the hell's in Doncaster? Why have I seen that before? Wakefield, that's where the Battle of Wakefield is. Or near there. Scarborough, that's one of those places that the Germans bombarded in the First World War. Yeah, the problem with history is that if you're not well versed in it, if you go to some place like the Abbey, they got all kinds of jumbled stuff that didn't happen at the same time together, right next to each other. So you might have somebody, let's use people that I know aren't next to each other, but if you could have Winston Churchill next to, King Arthur. You have things that are what's the anachronistic anachronistic stuff that I was trying to decipher that for the girls when I went there. They got all kinds of people there that they aren't known. Like nobody knows who they are. Like they're not famous folk. So that's the big difference between the U.S. and Europe. In the U.S., because it's so young, they realize, hey, this might be some historical significance. Let's lead this over here and not screw with this area. Where in Europe, it's like, by the time you start realizing, hey, maybe we should preserve this, 600 years have gone by and things have grown around whatever it is that you wanted to preserve. So you can no longer preserve just this. It's, you know, it's all up in it. It's too late, you know. I don't know if that makes any sense. When it comes down, I was really shocked that Russia is not taking Ukraine by now. I don't, you know, yeah, yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's nothing makes sense anymore, anywhere. I lost interest that first week when they were like, hey, we're going to ask everybody to surrender on this, and if not, we're going to kill them. And then you never heard from them, and you just assumed that they died. And then a week later, no, they took them prisoner. And, this whole, hey, look at this over here. And then they do the switch for you. Like, I'm not interested at all. But yeah, I mean, let's assume that Russia is trying to take Ukraine. They're not doing a very good job. So we grossly overestimated them, which I guess is better than underestimating them. We either grossly overestimated them, or their purpose was never to take Ukraine. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I agree with you. Did the Western help that much? It just seemed like they're just freaking incompetent. Remember, like in the first week, they were doing like this supposed blitzkrieg. Not really. There was like a couple columns that were really pushing forward. But I would think they would have total air control of the air. I don't think they've had air control of the air at all. So I don't. I'd like to think that they're not that shitty. So because if you were to ask me 5 years ago who has a better military, Russia or China, I'd say Russia. But I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. I got to think that if this is going so poor for Ukraine, if China ever decided to invade Taiwan, it would not go very well for them. Because now you got to try to land things on an ocean, and it just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. That's my thinking. More trying to drain the West capability. Yeah, I don't. None of the reality is none of us really know what's going on. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because and I remember when we were doing all that full to gap type scenarios, the Russians were supposedly the competent one of the whole things. I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's that bloody time, which I don't have as much dread today as I do on Sundays. On Sundays, it's like that, like, oh shit, it's coming. It's just like, just rip the band aid off, right? That's like it's like rip the band aid type of thing. The only thing that looked interesting is there's this game. I'll end with this. I don't do board games because, well, honestly, I don't know if I'll like them. And I'm just not interested in reading rules anymore. I don't mind playing them, but somebody else has to be the knowledgeable one. And then once I play it, then okay, now I'll read the rules. But there's this game called by this company called, I want to say like Flying Pig Enterprises or Double Pig or something like that. Drones, absolutely, but I'm not going to build a model of a drone. I'm just not interested in that. But this game called Flying Pig, Devil Pig, whatever, and there's this game called Armageddon War, and it's got big counters. Like it's a counter game, and I want to say the counters are inch around or something like that, which is big for counters. And it supposedly takes place in a Middle East, of course, in the near future, and there's like U.S. forces and Russian forces and Israeli forces and two or three different factions of Islamists. Meaning not necessarily part of a state that exists now, and the counters look beautiful. The game looks really, really good. And I'm like, well, this could be interesting for like, maybe some kind of modern skirmishes or something like that. But the game in and of itself, I watched a couple of playthroughs and it's a little vaguey. But the counters are beautiful. No, this is still wet. Okay, so this sprue goo, I hope this California sprue goo works because it has a smell, but it's very mild and it's actually pleasant. It's the same way as this floor care. You don't want to drink it, you don't want to bathe in it, but if you catch a whiff of it, it smells pleasant. And we'll pop the cherry on this thing this evening and see how my backplate works on the Sherman, or let's see how the the mold for the backplate of the Sherman. I'm leery of getting rid of actually putting the original piece in the Sherman before we know that we have a replacement. And it doesn't have to look 100%. I'm good at 75%. We'll cover it with mud in there, but at least we'll get that next Sherman rolling, and then we'll have three more. Um, but anyhow, thanks for stopping by, folks. And I don't think I'll be on this evening. But we'll be on probably tomorrow morning again.